Attention! Did you know that you can make a dick joke out of practically anything, but that they're also never funny? Here's 3 examples. Welcome, friend, welcome to Hex Farm, established 2027. Let me show you around. This here is my little forest where I have my pine trees. Not only are they quite beautiful, but they can be harvested for timber after just 25 years. Say, do you know what pine tree is in Latin? Pinus! Truly next level comedy. Get it? Pinus, like Pete. So funny. This here is my assistant Cletus. He helps me bottle the milk from the cows. Say hi, Cletus. Hi, Cletus. Oh, he's got a good sense of humour. Say, Cletus, have you got any leftover milk bottles that I can use to show the viewer our great milk? Yes. Alright, great. Cheers. Oh, Cletus, this tastes and smells like fish. Are you sure you've bottled these right? Oh, looks like it's turning nighttime. Oh, well, it's been fun, but I better be going. Oh, but wait, before I go, do you want to see my big cock? Oh, dude, you've got to see it. It's Guinness World Record levels in size. Check it out. See? Oh, isn't he a fatty? Pine trees, milk, and chickens. Everything in this intro should be used as scientific proof that practically anything can be turned into a genitalia-related joke. Nevertheless, however, we should all ask ourselves, should we? I for one believe such jokes are a very immature form of humour that we should all, as a species, aim to move on from. So for the good of mankind, let's all stop this nonsense, grow up, and be better. Thank you. Man, these intros really do just get weirder and weirder. Anyway, today I want to talk to you about something that I like to call the small farm Psyop, but I'm going to warn you, this is a heavy one, so bear with me. I've noticed a rising sentiment, specifically from young conservative men, of wanting to start a small farm in the middle of nowhere and live there, independently from mainstream society at large, forever. If you follow any of those giga-cringe conservative pages on social media such as Twitter, you would have no doubt noticed this rising underlying sentiment, with the common themes of such pages being the obsessive worshipping of nature, anti-technological ravings, and living a simple life of relative seclusion. Now, some of you may say, well, Alex, that sounds great, what's the problem? Well, the clue is in the name, Psyop. As contrary to popular belief, this small farm obsession is actually an extremely damaging view to hold. Hence why I believe it is being intentionally pushed into conservative minds, with many falling for it hook, line, and sinker, much to their own demise. Let me explain. Okay, so if society is made up of institutions, and these institutions are changed by influences, then it's clear that right now, in the Western world, the neoliberals by far have the most influence. It is simply undeniable that every single Western institution is currently dominated by neoliberalism to a blatantly painful degree. However, as the old saying goes, when you're at the top, then the only way to go is down. Thus, in order to make it less likely that their position on top of the Western world will be challenged, the current neoliberal elites have an active vested interest in ensuring that those who oppose them, such as social conservatives, are as demoralised as humanly possible. Because the more demoralized your enemy is, the less likely they are to want to fight you. As the ancient Chinese general Sun Tzu once wrote, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." The neoliberals do this primarily by propagating the myth that the socially progressive mantra is simply set in stone, will not be challenged, and that there's simply nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing you can do, there's nothing you can do, sit your ass down, there's nothing you can do.
But of course, this is absolute nonsense. Just take a glance at many of the great nations of the world and study the unbelievable level of transformation that has occurred within them, even just over the last century. Russia went from being a flailing monarchy to a communist superpower to a pseudo-democracy. China went from being an ancient monarchy to a communist dictatorship to an ultra-nationalistic superpower. The UK, my home, went from being a self-loving empire that spanned the world into a self-hating irrelevancy that's on the verge of breaking up. And the USA went from being by far the world's most respected, if not feared nation, to notoriously devolving into the world's largest circus. The point being that nations change all the time, for better or worse, but they don't just change accidentally. They change because the people made them change. Those who were angry with how their societies worked would get together and collectively pool their influence into taking over their nation's institutions, until, eventually, they got the changes that they desired. And it's through such conflict and resolution do all societies evolve. But without such conflicts, there would never be any resolutions. If people are demoralized into thinking they cannot collectively influence society, then they will instead just individually isolate themselves away from it. And that is what the small farm psyop is all about. Isolation out of demoralization. Living on a small farm presses the buttons of everything that socially conservative people like. Family, independence, peace, beauty, and hard work. But in reality, what this ultimately concludes with is surrendering the institutions of society into the hands of the neoliberals forever. Essentially, this whole living on a small farm narrative, it's really just a Trojan horse. While the neoliberals are rich, powerful, and loud, they want you, social conservatives, to be poor, powerless, and quiet. And what better way to achieve such than to convince you that living like a medieval peasant is not just acceptable, but actually desirable. Exactly. I did a poll on Twitter where I asked you all, who do you respect more, the farmer or the CEO? A whopping 91% of people said the farmer, with just 9% of people saying the CEO. Okay, quite a big majority there. But you know something? I disagree. I actually respect the CEO more than the farmer. Now, upon first glance, such a position may seem absurd. After all, farmers spend endless hours a day doing highly stressful, back-breaking work just to put food on our tables for very little in return. Meanwhile, most CEOs sit on their backsides all day, ordering their subordinates around for eye-watering sums of dosh. But that's the entire point. The people who run society, any society, are always going to be those who can dominate others. And in the Western world, this is primarily achieved financially. It isn't about hard work, but profitable work, because profit equals influence. After all, whereas a farmer has to work hard every single day, he also gets very little in return, with borderline no societal influence barring his field of expertise. Meanwhile, a CEO can make money off of their employees' backs, and then use such wealth as influence to steer society at large in the direction him and his class desire. Now, the fact that a corporate suit has more influence in our society than the people who make the food we need to survive may sound absurd, but this is how it is, always has been, and always will be. It's the modern-day version of lords versus peasants. And the fact that so many conservatives today have been psyoped to willingly desire to be a peasant over a lord is some next-level brainwashing. As proven by the next poll, where I asked people, if you had to be either a successful farmer or a successful CEO for the rest of your life, what would you rather be? Shockingly, 54% of people still said a farmer, with only 46% of people saying a CEO. I mean, why would you pick that? Let's say that the CEO was the head of a supermarket. Who do farmers sell their meat to? Supermarkets. The farmer is genuinely reliant on the CEO just to keep going, whereas the supermarket has a ton of farms they can choose from. And even if you weren't interested in the business aspect of farming and just wanted to live independently, then why not just save the hundreds of thousands of dollars you'd get from being a CEO to eventually move out and buy your own farm instead? These polls both showcase the bizarre blind romanticism of farming that has become so rampant within many socially conservative circles, which, ironically, is actually extremely similar behaviour to what the communists used to exhibit, as seen by how they were so heavy on using agricultural themes in their iconography. It's the subconscious worship of an idealistic world of justified hard work over the pragmatic reality of dominance hierarchies. But as ever, cash is king, and deep down, people really know that. Hence why the ratio of those who picked farmers on the second poll was much lower than the first poll, because it's a different set of rules when it's about you personally. The idealism of how the world should be subconsciously starts to become secondary to the pragmatism of how it actually is. To be clear, this isn't about disrespecting farming. I'm sure we all love farmers. This is about a rising number of conservatives using farming as a proxy for their own cowardice. Do you know how progressives have a tendency to intellectually shy away from ideas that oppose their narrow viewpoint, and instead demand absurd constructs such as a safe space wherein they don't get challenged? Well, the small farm is the conservative version of a safe space. An artificial bubble isolated away from reality that has been crafted with the specific purpose of protecting the fragile individuals therein. The underlying logic is really no different whatsoever. Desiring seclusion from the masses isn't a sign of strength, it's a sign of weakness. If you want to live like an endangered species on a reservation, then by all means do so. But if when faced with danger, your natural instinct isn't to fight, but flight, then that's because you subconsciously know that you're weak. But I don't care for society. I just want to be left alone. Well, what makes you think you're gonna be left alone? Okay, so conservatives have all willingly chosen to isolate themselves in wooden barns in Wyoming, leaving the rest of the Western world to be dominated by progressive minds. Well done! You are now enemy number one of your ideological opponents, who you voluntarily allow to take control of the culture, economy, education, laws, media, and healthcare systems of your nation. A truly masterful plan. By surrendering your influence over the institutions of society, you don't actually make yourself more independent to them, you make yourself more vulnerable to them. It's like being in a duel with your worst enemy, but you don't really want to fight him, so you drop your sword in the hopes that he'll just leave you alone. No. He'd probably just strike you with even more zeal, because you've completely disarmed yourself. Oh? What's this? A conservative farm? Please! I just want to be left alone! Please! How about no? In the past, when people feared the direction of their nation, they'd run off to America, where they would, for the most part, be able to make something of themselves. But now, even America, like all Western nations, is under attack. And there is no America too. If America falls, then that's it. Game over. There's nowhere to run, and nowhere to hide. So don't even think about it. You cannot go backwards, you can only go forwards. Role-playing as someone from a century ago and artificially isolating yourself from the rest of the world within a bubble may make you, as an individual, feel good in the short term, but in the long term, you've collectively failed. Failed your religion, failed your nation, failed your friends, failed your family, and most importantly, failed yourself. So please, for the rising amount of conservatives who have started thinking this way, can you please grow a brain and stop this LARP? Social conservatism is not about individualism, isolating yourself away from the world to live this fabled lifestyle. It's about collectivism, dominating the mainstream society and enforcing your will with other like-minded people. If you aren't happy with the increasingly progressive direction that such institutions are going, then you should garner some influence to change them. With all due respect, we don't need more social conservatives in farms. We need more social conservatives in the streets, in the banks, in the schools, in the courts, in the broadcasts, and in the hospitals. And contrary to what many naysayers may say, I believe this process is inevitable. As I've said many times before, just as civilizational natural selection dictates, a progressive society is simply doomed to collapse, and from its ashes shall return order. Of course, things will get worse before they get better, but they will get better, and that's the point. You should want to be one of the people who helped to make things better, rather than being one of the people who ran away when the going got tough. Because whether you like it or not, we need you. Ain't that right, Cletus? Hello, I hope you enjoyed this production. If you did, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And if you didn't, well, you just have terrible taste. But let me know anyway. Yeah, small farm psyop, it's tragic. It's tragic how many conservatives are voluntarily taking themselves out of society, not realising that society is not something that should just be given away. Conservatives made society. We made all the institutions. Why are we just giving them away to a bunch of morons who are going to ruin them and fall on their own sword anyway? Doesn't make any sense. This is a temporary period of decline. I view running away to want to start this little farm LARP as pathetic, really. I just view it as absolute cowardice. And let's be honest here, most people who want to do this have lived in cities all their lives and they've never done any farm work ever. They're underestimating how difficult it would actually be. Well, that and a myriad. It's just a disaster. It's just an absolute disaster. Some people might say, Alex, is this really that big of a deal to want to warrant making a production on? Not really. I mean, there's only a few thousand people who want to do this, but it's this underlying idea that conservatives should just shut up and sit down and just disappear. Right? It's that underlying, it's over, let's run away. That sentiment, I hate that. No, it's not over. It's not over. It can never be over. Do you know why it can't be over? Because progressives can't even wipe their own arse without us, that's why. So, yeah, it's not over. Shut up about farms and get to work. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, if you like this, join Patreon if you want. You can join the wall over there. No one ever does, so I don't even know why the hell I even bother mentioning it at this point. But anyway, hope you enjoyed, and yeah, I'll see you next time.